On Achill Island in County Mayo, then one of the most isolated and impoverished regions of Ireland, Reverend Edward Nangle established an evangelical settlement in 1831 known as the Achill Mission Colony. Nangle's vision combined practical improvement with religious instruction. The mission provided schools where children learned to read scripture. It organized land reclamation schemes. It established a printing press that produced Irish-language Bibles. It also built neat cottages, an orphanage, and even a small infirmary. Nangle viewed his efforts as a means of delivering both practical advancement and the Protestant message to a largely Catholic and deeply impoverished community. When the potato blight arrived in 1845, famine gripped the island. The potato was the staple crop for much of the population. Achill's soil was poor and its people had few economic alternatives. When the crop failed, starvation spread rapidly. By the worst years of 1847 and 1848, the mission had become one of the island's most visible sources of relief. Mission reports described large employment schemes in which as many as 2,000 laborers worked on roads, drainage projects, and land improvement. Hundreds of children received daily meals through the mission's scriptural schools. Food and clothing were distributed across a population that in the 1840s numbered roughly 6,000 people. In 1848, the mission imported more than 200 tons of Indian meal from America. The colony also experimented with alternative potato varieties that were believed to be less vulnerable to blight. Nangle later claimed that without these efforts, thousands would probably have starved. However, this benevolence was not without controversy. Food and employment were often linked to attendance at Protestant-run schools. These schools offered daily meals alongside lessons in reading and Protestant religious instruction. Some practices, such as serving meat on Fridays, clashed with Catholic custom. It appeared that Nangle was using the famine as an opportunity to expand the Protestant Church in Catholic Ireland. The term that later attached to such arrangements was superism, the practice of providing relief in circumstances where recipients were expected to attend Protestant instruction or adopt Protestant beliefs. Those who accepted aid in these circumstances were labeled supers. The phrase "take the soup" entered Irish speech as a metaphor for compromising one's faith under pressure. Yet the story is more complex. Many who attended the mission schools returned to the Catholic Church once the emergency passed. The colony's physical improvements, such as roads, drainage works, reclaimed land, and basic education, remained on the island long after the famine had subsided. Historians note that while the Achill mission became the most famous example associated with the controversy, the scale of conditional relief across Ireland appears to have been limited. Desmond Bowen argued in his 1970 book, Superism, Myth or Reality, that while isolated cases did occur, particularly around certain evangelical missions in the West and South, the practice was never widespread. In an era marked by intense sectarian tension and dire scarcity, the allegation that food relief was tied to conversion became a potent element in the broader social and religious conflicts that shaped post-famine Ireland. Despite widespread controversy over superism, Protestant churches played a significant role in famine relief, often providing substantial aid without religious conditions. Anglican congregations, their members and supporters in Britain donated generously, making Protestant contributions one of the largest sources of external charitable assistance, standing alongside Catholic efforts. Many Anglican clergy and relief committees operated soup kitchens free of any conversion pressure. In Ulster, where the famine impacted both Catholic and Protestant communities alike, local cooperation between denominations helped feed thousands and address epidemics of fever and cholera. Across Ireland, Catholic and Protestant clergy collaborated where possible to offer aid, though the overwhelming scale of the catastrophe far exceeded what any group could fully provide. Perhaps the most widely admired relief effort came from the Quakers. They established a central relief committee in Dublin in November 1846. They organized soup kitchens in the worst affected districts, distributed Indian meal, seed potatoes, clothing, and agricultural tools. They raised funds internationally to charter ships carrying provisions. The Quakers supplied hundreds of large cooking cauldrons, later remembered as famine pots, to enable communal meals. At least 15 Quakers died from fever or exhaustion during their relief work. Their aid carried no religious conditions. Edward Nangle's mission provided food, employment, and education at a time when many on the island faced starvation. Yet it also became entangled in one of the most bitter religious controversies of 19th century Ireland. What remains undeniable is that famine forced thousands of people into choices that no community should ever be asked to make.